The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council stretched high above Ambassador James Walker's head, its crystal dome showing the swirling colors of deep space. He sat quietly at the human delegation's desk, watching the various alien representatives argue about trade routes and border disputes. After 3 years as Earth's chief diplomat, he had learned that most days in the council were filled with endless talk about minor issues. Walker tapped his finger on the smooth surface of his desk. The council had been discussing the same mining rights dispute for over 2 hours. The blue-skinned Meridians wanted exclusive access to an asteroid belt, while the crystalline Astrans claimed historical rights to the area. Neither side seemed willing to compromise. The mining rights clearly belonged to. The Meridian speaker's voice cut off as Walker's communication device lit up with an urgent message. The small screen displayed a red border, the highest emergency level. Walker opened the message, keeping his face carefully neutral as he read the contents. Years of diplomatic training helped him maintain his composure, but his hands tightened into fists under the desk. Earth's orbital defense stations were under attack. The message contained video feeds from multiple stations. Silent explosions bloomed in space as unknown ships targeted Earth's defensive platforms. The attacks were precise, surgical. Whoever was behind this knew exactly where to strike. Walker's mind raced. The attackers had somehow bypassed the early warning systems. They knew the defensive grid's weak points. This wasn't a random attack. It was too well planned. He looked around the council chamber with new eyes. How many of these representatives knew this was coming? How many had helped plan it? The Meridian speaker droned on about mineral rights, unaware that humanity's representative had just learned of an act of war against Earth. Walker studied the aliens' gestures and movements more carefully now. The Meridians were known for their military strength. Could they be behind the attack? Walker's device buzzed again. A second message appeared. Defensive grid status. 60% of orbital platforms damaged or destroyed. Civilian casualties. Minimal. Enemy ships. Unidentified design. Additional details incoming. The attackers' strategy was clear. They were deliberately avoiding civilian targets while systematically dismantling Earth's defensive capabilities. They wanted to leave Earth vulnerable, but didn't want to trigger an all-out war. Not yet. Walker stood up slowly, his chair sliding back without a sound. Several alien representatives turned to look at him. The human almost never interrupted council proceedings. The Meridian speaker paused, antenna twitching in annoyance. Does the human representative wish to comment on the mining rights discussion? Walker smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. No, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I wish to inform the council that Earth's orbital defense network is currently under attack by unknown forces. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs and exclamations. Several representatives started typing frantically on their communication devices. Walker watched their reactions carefully, noting who seemed genuinely surprised and who appeared unsurprised by the news. This is most irregular, the council elder said, their crystalline form shifting colors rapidly. We should form a committee to investigate. With all due respect, Walker interrupted, his voice sharp enough to cut through the growing noise. Earth does not require a committee. What we require is information. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and eye stalks of various representatives. Someone in this chamber knows who authorized this attack. Someone here gave them our defense codes and platform locations. A heavy silence fell over the assembly. Walker let it stretch, watching as different representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Earth has been a peaceful member of this council, he continued, his controlled tone making his words even more powerful. We have followed your rules, respected your traditions, waited our turn. His voice hardened. But make no mistake, an attack on our home will not go unanswered. The council elder started to speak, but Walker turned and walked toward the chamber's exit. He paused at the doorway and looked back over his shoulder. When I return, he said quietly, I expect answers. For your sake, I hope they're good ones. The doors slid shut behind him with a final sounding hiss. leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Walker strode through the gleaming corridors of the council station, his footsteps echoing against the polished floors. His communication device hadn't stopped buzzing since he left the chamber, but he ignored it. He had a different destination in mind. The evidence archives were located in the lowest level of the station. Few representatives ever visited this place, preferring to let their assistants handle the tedious work of research. But Walker had spent countless hours here over the past 3 years, building a database that he hoped he'd never need to use. Today, he needed it. The archive's entrance scanner recognized his diplomatic credentials, and the heavy doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, endless rows of data crystals glowed with a soft blue light. Each one contained thousands of records, documents, and communications from centuries of council meetings. Walker walked to a specific section and removed a small device from his pocket. It looked like a standard diplomatic translator, but this one was different. Earth's best computer experts had modified it to decode even the most secure council communications. "Show me all communications between council members regarding Earth's defensive capabilities," he commanded. The device hummed to life, connecting with the archive systems. Data streamed across his screen. Most of it was standard intelligence gathering, but one encrypted channel caught his attention. It had been carefully hidden behind layers of diplomatic protocol messages. As he decoded the messages, Walker's suspicions were confirmed. The attack wasn't just about Earth. It was part of a larger plan by the ancient consortium, the oldest species in the Council. They had been watching humanity's rapid progress with growing concern. One message stood out. The humans advance too quickly. Their adaptability poses a threat to the established order. The Meridian forces are in position. Once their defenses are neutralized, we can guide their development along more acceptable paths. Walker's jaw tightened. The Meridians were just tools. The real threat came from the species that claimed to be humanity's mentors in galactic society. His device beeped again, highlighting another set of messages. These showed financial transactions between certain council members and known arms dealers. The pieces fit together. The ancient consortium had hired mercenaries to attack Earth while maintaining plausible deniability. But they had made one crucial mistake. Walker pulled out another data crystal, this one containing his own records. For 3 years, he had documented every suspicious meeting, every hidden transaction, every whispered conversation in the council's corridors. He had known that humanity's rapid progress would eventually draw unwanted attention. His screen displayed a new message from Earth. Defensive grid status. All primary targets hit. Activating Protocol Omega. Walker allowed himself a small smile. The ancient consortium thought they were crippling Earth's defenses, but they had only destroyed empty stations and automated platforms. The real defensive grid remained hidden, powered down and waiting. They had fallen for humanity's careful deception, appearing weaker than they truly were. Now he had everything he needed: proof of the conspiracy, evidence of illegal weapons trading, and records of the ancient consortium's manipulation of younger species. But most importantly, he had confirmation that they had violated the Council's highest law: armed aggression against a member world. Walker gathered his evidence and headed for the exit. The Council's laws were clear. Any representative could demand an emergency session when presenting evidence of attacks against their world. No one could stop him from speaking. He touched his communication device, sending a brief message to Earth. Evidence secured. Proceeding with Phase 2. The response came immediately. Understood. All systems ready. Give them hell, Ambassador. Walker stepped into the elevator that would take him back to the council chamber. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with controlled fury. The ancient consortium had spent thousands of years manipulating younger species from the shadows. They were about to learn why attacking humanity was their biggest mistake. The council chamber doors slammed open. Every head in the vast room turned as Walker entered. He didn't walk to his assigned seat this time. Instead, he strode directly to the center of the chamber, where only the highest-ranking council members were allowed to speak. Representative Walker. The council elder's voice echoed through the chamber. You are out of order. Return to your designated. No. Walker's voice was quiet but carried to every corner of the room. I invoke Article 7 of the Council Charter, the right of immediate address in cases of armed aggression against a member world. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Article 7 hadn't been used in over 300 years. Several of the ancient consortium members shifted uneasily in their seats. Walker held up his data device, and holographic images filled the air above him. They showed encrypted messages, financial transactions, and surveillance footage of secret meetings. 2 hours ago, Earth's defensive platforms were attacked, he said, his controlled voice hiding a deep fury. The Meridian ships that carried out this attack were hired by members of this very council. The chamber erupted in shouts and denials. Walker waited, standing perfectly still in the center of the chaos. His silence was more powerful than any shout. These are serious accusations, the council elders said when the noise died down. Do you have proof? Proof. Walker's laugh held no humor. I have 3 years of proof. Every secret meeting, every hidden transaction, every whispered conversation about the human problem. He pressed a button, and new images appeared. They showed members of the ancient consortium meeting with known weapons dealers. Another image showed encrypted orders for the attack on Earth. The ancient consortium planned this attack. Walker continued. They feared humanity's progress. They thought they could weaken us, guide us to be more manageable. One of the consortium members stood up, his crystalline form flashing with angry colors. You cannot prove. I can prove everything. Walker's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Did you think we didn't know? Did you think humanity survived countless wars and challenges without learning to watch for threats? He touched his device again. Now the images showed Earth's defensive platforms during the attack. The consortium members leaned forward, expecting to see destruction. Instead, they saw empty stations, automated platforms with no critical systems. You attacked decoys, Walker said, allowing himself a small smile. Every platform you destroyed was designed to be destroyed. The real defensive grid remains untouched. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The ancient consortium had revealed themselves, spent enormous resources, and achieved nothing. This is outrageous, another consortium member shouted. We have guided the younger species for thousands of years. We have maintained order. You have maintained control, Walker corrected. You've manipulated every emerging species, keeping them dependent on your guidance. But humanity doesn't need your guidance. We never did. He walked slowly around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. Today, you tried to weaken humanity. Instead, you've exposed yourselves. Every law you've broken, every species you've manipulated, every secret deal you've made. I have evidence of all of it. The council elder's form flickered with concern. What do you want, Representative Walker? Walker stopped and turned to face the ancient consortium seats. I want justice. I want reform. I want an end to the shadows and secrets. His voice hardened. And I want it now. The chamber erupted again, but this time with voices of support from the younger species. They had suffered under the consortium's manipulation for too long. Now they had a chance for change. Walker stood in the center of the storm he had created, his evidence still floating in the air around him. The ancient consortium had ruled through secrecy and fear for thousands of years. They were about to learn that humanity's fury was stronger than their fear. The leader of the ancient consortium, a being of shifting crystal and light named First Speaker, rose from their seat. The chamber grew quiet as the ancient alien moved to face Walker. You play a dangerous game, human, First Speaker said, their voice like grinding crystals. We have guided the galaxy for 10,000 years. Do you think we survived this long without having plans within plans? Walker watched as the massive screens around the chamber suddenly came to life. They showed Earth's major cities, each with a small dot hovering high above them. Stealth platforms. First speaker announced, placed there years ago, waiting for exactly this kind of disobedience. Your empty defense stations mean nothing if we can strike your cities directly. The younger species representatives gasped. Even threatening civilian targets was forbidden by the Council's oldest laws. But Walker didn't move, didn't show any reaction at all. "Are you sure about that?" he asked quietly. First speaker's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "Our platforms are there. You can see them." "Yes," Walker agreed. "We can see them. We've always been able to see them." He touched his device again, and new images appeared. They showed Earth ships, carefully hidden in orbit, positioned near each of the consortium's platforms. "We found them the day you placed them. We've been watching your watchers." The ancient consortium members shifted uneasily in their seats. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. "Impossible," another consortium member said. "Our stealth technology is perfect. You couldn't have detected." "Your stealth technology was perfect," Walker corrected, 300 years ago. "But humanity has spent centuries preparing for threats from space. Did you think we wouldn't develop ways to detect hidden ships?" He walked closer to first speaker, each step measured and calm. "Every trap you set, we found. Every spy you planted, we turned. Every weakness you thought you discovered was one we showed you." First speaker's crystal form turned dark colors of rage. "Then we will use force. The Meridian Fleet still." "The Meridian Fleet," a new voice interrupted, "is standing down." All eyes turned to the Meridian representative, who had risen from his seat. His blue skin seemed pale as he faced the consortium. "We were hired to destroy defensive platforms," the Meridian said, "not to massacre civilians. We are warriors, not butchers." He turned to Walker and bowed slightly. "The Meridian Empire withdraws from this conflict." First speaker's form crackled with energy. "You dare. We made you what you are. Without our guidance." "Your guidance." Walker's laugh was genuine this time. "Look around you, first speaker. Look at what your guidance has done to the species you claim to protect." The chamber was changing. Representatives of younger species were standing up, moving away from the consortium section. Centuries of fear were giving way to anger. "You rule through fear," Walker continued, "through secrets and lies. But secrets can be uncovered. Lies can be exposed. And fear," he smiled, "fear only works until someone stands up and says, 'No more.'" First speaker raised their crystalline arms, energy crackling between them. "You think you can challenge us, we who have ruled for 10,000 years?" "No," Walker said calmly. "I think we already have." The chamber screens changed again, now showing feeds from across the galaxy. Consortium secret bases exposed. Hidden weapons caches discovered. Proof of their manipulation broadcast on every channel. "While you were watching us," Walker explained, "we were dismantling your power. Piece by piece. Network by network. Secret by secret." He turned to address the entire chamber. "The ancient consortium doesn't rule through strength. They rule through shadows. And shadows." He gestured at the brightly lit screens. "Shadows vanish in the light." First speaker's form had gone completely dark. They knew what this meant. The careful work of thousands of years, undone in a single day. The age of secrets was ending. The age of light was about to begin. The council chamber had become a battlefield of words and alliances. As the ancient consortium's power crumbled, other species began to step forward. The first was the Meridian representative, still standing tall despite the angry glares from the consortium members. "The Meridian Empire," he announced, his voice carrying across the chamber, "formally withdraws all support from the ancient consortium. Furthermore, we offer our database of all consortium operations within our space as evidence of their crimes." Before first speaker could respond, another representative stood up. The plant-like verdant, their leaf crown shimmering under the chamber's lights, raised their branch-like arm. "The Verdant Collective stands with Earth," they announced. "For too long, We have watched our best minds disappear into consortium research facilities. No more. One by one, other species began to rise. The machine minds of the digital collective, the energy beings of the star dancers, the warrior clans of the mountain worlds. Each had suffered under the consortium's rule. Each had stories to tell. Walker stood quietly in the center, watching as centuries of fear turned to anger, and anger turned to action. His device continued to stream evidence across the chamber screens, showing the full extent of the consortium's manipulation. "You're making a mistake," first speaker warned, their crystal form now almost black with rage. "Without our guidance, the galaxy will fall into chaos. War will. The only wars in the last 1,000 years," the Meridian representative interrupted, "were started by your manipulations. We have proof." He transmitted a new set of data to Walker's device. Fresh images filled the screens. They showed consortium agents shipping weapons to both sides of conflicts, stirring up ancient hatreds, keeping the younger species too busy fighting each other to challenge consortium rule. 3 years ago, Walker said into the sudden silence, when humanity joined the council, we made a choice. We could play by the consortium's rules, fighting the wars they wanted us to fight. Or, he smiled, we could change the rules. He gestured to the gathered representatives. Every species here has something unique to offer. The Meridian's tactical genius, the Verdant's biological sciences, the digital collective's processing power, but the consortium kept us apart, kept us suspicious of each other. What are you suggesting? The digital collective's representative asked, their holographic form flickering with interest. An alliance, Walker replied, not built on fear or secrets, but on mutual respect and open cooperation. Earth will share its advances in stealth detection. The Meridians can share their shield technology. The Verdants, their terraforming expertise. The chamber buzzed with excitement. Species that had been kept apart by consortium manipulation began to see the possibilities. This is madness, first speaker protested, but their voice was weaker now. You cannot undo 10,000 years of order in a single day. No, Walker agreed. We can't, and we won't try. He turned to face the entire chamber. What we can do is start building something better. Today. Together. The Meridian representative moved to stand beside Walker. The Verdant followed. Then the digital collective. Soon, representatives from 20 different species stood together in the center of the chamber. First speaker's crystal form had gone completely dark. You will regret this, they threatened. No, Walker said quietly. The only thing we regret is not doing this sooner. He looked around at his new allies. The age of secrets is over. The age of cooperation begins now. The chamber erupted in cheers as more representatives joined the growing alliance. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves standing together, united in their desire for change. The ancient consortium's power was built on keeping species afraid and apart. They never expected their greatest fear, an alliance of younger species, to be born from their own attack on humanity. The chamber had grown quiet again. The initial excitement of the new alliance had settled into a determined calm. Walker stood before the ancient consortium section, his device displaying one final set of images. Before I present our terms, he said, his voice carrying easily through the silence, I want to show you something. The screens changed to show a massive data archive. This is humanity's insurance policy. First speaker's crystal form flickered with the first signs of fear. What is this? Everything. Walker replied simply. Every secret you've buried, every species you've suppressed, every technology you've hidden. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in, including the ones even your own people have forgotten. The other consortium members stirred uneasily. There were secrets that even they didn't know, technologies and knowledge hidden by their predecessors. For 3 years, Walker continued, we've been gathering this data, copying your archives, decoding your oldest records, finding the truths you try to erase. He touched his device, and one particular file appeared on the screens. The consortium members' reaction was immediate and dramatic. First speaker's form almost shattered with shock. "Yes," Walker said quietly. "We found that too. The true history of how you came to power. How you didn't guide younger species, you conquered them, erased their histories, rewrote their memories." The younger species representatives watched in stunned silence as more evidence appeared. The consortium's perfect image of wise mentors crumbled with each new revelation. "Now," Walker said, "here are our terms." He stepped forward, each word clear and precise. "First, the ancient consortium will immediately surrender all special privileges in the Council. You will have the same rights as every other species. No more, no less." First speaker started to object, but Walker continued without pause. "Second, you will face trial for your actions, not just the attack on Earth, but all of it. The wars you started, the species you suppressed, the knowledge you stole." The screens showed more data, countless files documenting millennia of manipulation and control. "Third, you will agree to a new council charter, one that guarantees equal representation for all species, one that makes secrecy and manipulation punishable by permanent exclusion from the Council." Walker's voice grew harder. "You have 1 hour to agree to these terms. If you refuse," he touched his device one final time, "every piece of evidence we've gathered will be broadcast to every world in Council space, every secret revealed, every lie exposed. You would destroy the galactic order." First speaker protested. "The chaos would." "The chaos," Walker interrupted, "would be your legacy, not ours. We're offering you a chance to help build something better, to be part of the solution instead of continuing to be the problem." He looked around at the gathered representatives, now united in purpose. "The younger species don't need your guidance anymore. We've outgrown your control. The only question is whether you'll accept this change with dignity, or force us to expose every dark secret you've buried." First speaker's form had gone completely still. "An hour is not enough time to consider such terms. You've had 10,000 years to consider the consequences of your actions," Walker replied coldly. "1 hour is generous." He turned to leave the chamber, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing." He looked back at the consortium members. "If any of you try to access your emergency protocols, launch your hidden weapons, or activate any of your contingency plans." He smiled. "Well, let's just say we found those too." The chamber doors closed behind him, leaving the ancient consortium to face their hour of decision. Outside, representatives of the newly allied species gathered to plan for a future without consortium control. The countdown had begun. Exactly 1 hour later, Walker returned to the council chamber. The room had changed in his absence. The ancient consortium's seats, once raised above the others, now sat at the same level as everyone else's, a small but powerful symbol of the coming changes. First speakers stood in the center of the chamber, their crystal form dim and subdued. Around them, representatives of 30 different species watched in silence. "We accept your terms," first speaker said, each word seemingly dragged from them unwillingly. "The ancient consortium surrenders its special privileges and submits to the Council's judgment." Walker nodded, keeping his face neutral despite the historic nature of the moment. "And the new charter?" "We will sign it," first speaker confirmed, "though I maintain this will lead to chaos." "No," Walker corrected gently, "it will lead to change. There's a difference." He turned to address the entire chamber. "The era of secrets and shadows is over. Now we build something new. Together." The Meridian representative stepped forward. "The Meridian Empire pledges its fleet to protect the new order during the transition. The Digital Collective offers its networks for transparent communication." Their representative added, their holographic form glowing brightly. One by one, species that had been kept apart for millennia stepped forward to offer their unique strengths. The Verdants promised their biological expertise. The Star Dancers offered their energy manipulation technology. The Mountain Clans pledged their strength. Walker watched as ancient barriers crumbled. Species that had been taught to fear each other were now working together, sharing knowledge that the consortium had kept hidden. "There will be challenges," he admitted to the chamber. "Old habits don't die easily. Some will resist change. But together, we're stronger than any force that might oppose us." He activated his device one final time. The screen showed a new image, a database being constructed in real time as species contributed their knowledge. "This is the Library of Light," Walker announced, "an open repository of all our combined knowledge. No more secrets, no more hidden technologies. When one of us advances, we all advance." The consortium members watched in silence as millennia of carefully guarded knowledge flowed into the public database. Their power had always come from controlling information. Now that power was gone. "What happens to us now?" First speaker asked quietly. "You'll stand trial," Walker replied, "but not for revenge. For truth. The younger species deserve to know their real history." He paused. "And after that, you'll have the chance to be part of something better, if you choose to be." The chamber's grand doors opened, revealing members of the press from 100 worlds. For the first time in Council history, the proceedings would be broadcast live across the galaxy. "One last thing," Walker said, addressing the entire chamber. "Earth didn't do this alone. Every species here played a part. Some gathered intelligence, others provided hidden support. Even those who only quietly resisted the consortium's control helped make this day possible." He smiled. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our determination. It's our ability to bring people together, to turn enemies into allies, to see possibilities where others see only barriers." The chamber erupted in applause. Species that had never dared to hope for change were now architects of a new future. As the new council members began discussing the details of the transition, Walker sent one final message to Earth. "Mission accomplished. The galaxy is changing. And this time, it's changing for the better." The response came quickly. "Well done, Ambassador. Come home when you can. There's a lot of work ahead." Walker smiled as he watched the various species working together, already planning for their shared future. The ancient consortium had ruled through fear and division for 10,000 years. It had taken humanity just 3 years to show the galaxy a better way.